You're not here by coincidence. Something deep within you brought you to this video at this exact moment, and by the time you finish listening, you'll understand why. While many people lose sight of the deeper origin of their existence, there are souls that enter this world with a quiet purpose, a kind of internal compass. It's not something easily explained with words, but it's something you can feel with profound intensity. Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung once spoke of a wisdom that lies beyond the conscious mind, a part of ourselves that already knew the way, long before we ever took our first steps. And if you're watching this, it's likely because your soul isn't lost, but rather following through on a deep, ancient agreement, a choice made long before your birth. There are signs, and once you begin to notice them, everything starts to make sense. One of the first signs is this. From an early age, you sensed that life had a deeper meaning. You weren't like the others. While those around you were easily distracted by superficial things, you felt a strange kind of longing for something you couldn't name. You asked questions that didn't have easy answers, and you sought meaning in even the smallest of gestures. There was something within you, pulling you to look beyond what the eye could see, to sense what others overlooked. This wasn't pride or arrogance. It was a subtle memory, a kind of echo from your soul that whispered you were here for something greater. And even if that made you feel different, misunderstood, or even isolated at times, you could never silence that inner feeling. It was a quiet certainty that your path would never look like everyone else's. And though that certainty may have been uncomfortable at times, it stayed with you, like a flame that burns softly in the depths of your being. The feeling that there's something more wasn't something you were taught. It was something you were born with. While others were entirely focused on the external world, you were already exploring your inner one. You asked questions no one else seemed to consider, about suffering, about the meaning of life, about the essence of the human soul. And you didn't ask these questions from a place of childish curiosity, but rather from a wisdom that felt ancient, as if it had followed you here from somewhere far away. Souls like yours don't need external proof to know that their life has purpose. There's something inside that constantly affirms it, even when the world outside doesn't understand. Maybe, as a child, you felt like you were watching the world from the outside, like what was happening around you couldn't fully explain what you were feeling inside. That disconnection wasn't emptiness. It was your soul reminding you of the agreement you made, that this life wasn't your first, and that you were walking the path of awakening once again. And that's why, even in the face of challenges, doubts, and inner turmoil, something within you always pushed you forward. A kind of instinct that you couldn't justify with logic, but that you always knew was real. That sense of being on a mission, even if you didn't know exactly what it was. That feeling that you needed to experience certain moments with depth, and that every step, even the painful ones, was guiding you towards something meaningful. This is one of the clearest signs that your soul chose this path long before you arrived. Because this life isn't just about living, it's about remembering why you came. And when a soul makes that silent choice, that sacred commitment before birth, the world can often feel heavier, slower, more confusing. While others are learning everything for the first time, you're remembering how to feel with the soul, how to see with depth, how to endure and understand processes that most people don't even have words for. This can create a strange kind of disconnect from reality, You might be surrounded by people and still feel distant. You might be doing everything that's expected of you, yet feel like you're betraying your own truth. And that's not because there's something wrong with you. It's because your consciousness is wired to a higher plane. Your sensitivity allows you to perceive dimensions that others can't see. Maybe you've also noticed that certain pains hit you harder than they seem to hit others, that losses, emotions, and even silences affect you deeply, almost as if you've lived them all before. That's because souls that choose to come with conscious missions do so, knowing that they'll need profound sensitivity to fulfill them. And while that sensitivity may have made you vulnerable, it's also the most powerful tool you carry within. You knew all of this before arriving. Your soul didn't choose comfort, it chose purpose. And that choice reveals itself in your earliest years, in the form of intuition, existential questions, and a way of perceiving the world that never accepted surface-level answers. You weren't meant to conform to what doesn't resonate with your spirit. You came to remember, to transform, to awaken something that was planted deep within you long before you were ever born. Second sign: you have gone through intense trials that defy rational explanation, yet hold profound spiritual purpose. These are not random misfortunes, but deeply intentional moments that your soul agreed to face long before you took your first breath. The souls that consciously choose their path before birth do not seek comfort, ease, or shortcuts. They know, at the deepest level, that certain experiences are essential. Essential to awaken dormant memories, to ignite hidden gifts, to refine their awareness, and to transform the very fabric of who they are. That's why, throughout your life, you've probably felt as if hardships strike without warning, suddenly, without reason, like life is testing you more than it tests others. And still, despite the chaos, despite the pain, something inside you has endured, not out of stubbornness or pride, but out of a sacred strength, an inner resilience that only awakens when everything else seems to collapse. It doesn't shout, it doesn't fight, it simply is, steady like a silent flame that refuses to die. Maybe you've faced unexpected losses, endings that tore you apart, emptiness so vast, no one around you could understand it. And while others moved on, barely questioning anything, you felt the weight of each moment. Every painful experience didn't just hurt, it shaped you. It carved into your being like a chisel, not to destroy, but to reveal what had been buried under layers of forgetfulness, to uncover the truth that you were always meant to remember. These trials were never random. They came into your life because, at some point beyond time, your soul welcomed them. It knew that through them, you would expand, you would remember, you would find your way back to a deeper truth. A mission that, on the surface, may have seemed lost, but never really was. And now, looking back, you begin to see that those moments weren't punishments. They were sacred teachers, lessons you couldn't have learned in any other way. They pushed you inward when the outside world no longer made sense. They shattered the inner structures that were no longer aligned with your truth. They forced you to confront yourself, to strip away every illusion until all that remained was raw authenticity. The souls who choose such a path do not do so from ego. They choose it from the wisdom of eternity, from the knowing that pain, when moved through with awareness, does not destroy, it reveals. It does not weaken, it transforms. And you know this, because you felt it. There are experiences you knew somehow were not punishments, but activations. After every fall, something inside you awakened. Your vision changed, your empathy deepened, your sensitivity grew more refined, and your connection to the unseen became more intimate. Maybe no one around you understood this process. Maybe even you questioned it at times. But somewhere deep within, you knew. You knew that your pain was not in vain, that it was clearing the path for you to become who you truly are. Not the version of you created to survive the world, but the one who came here to remember, to heal, to expand the wisdom your soul already carried. And that kind of growth? It cannot be taught in books. It cannot be explained in words. It must be lived. It must be breathed. It must be embodied. And that is why you are not broken. You are becoming. You are in the middle of a sacred process. A process your soul chose long before your mind could comprehend it. These trials have been more than hardships. They've been hidden doors. They don't always appear as openings at first, but over time, you begin to realize, behind every loss, every breakdown, every shadowed chapter, there was a seed that could only take root in shaken ground. Because the souls that walk this path aren't looking for surface-level growth. They are seeking depth, and depth cannot be found in the shallows of life. It is found in the long silences, in the sleepless nights, in the cracks that cannot be hidden. You didn't become wise by accident. You became wise because life stripped away what no longer served you, so it could fill you with what you had forgotten. And even when you felt like you were reaching your limit, that quiet part of you, that ancient awareness, was always there, watching, holding, whispering, without words, that what you are living, you already knew, not with your mind, but with your soul. And it is that memory, that deep inner knowing, that keeps you moving forward. Not from force, not from resistance, but from a trust that blossoms in silence. A trust that grows when you finally recognize that even the hardest trials are part of a sacred agreement. One that your mind may not fully understand, but your soul feels with greater clarity each day. Third sign, you possess a sensitivity that goes far beyond the emotional. It is a perception that comes from the soul itself. It's not just that you feel deeply, it's that you perceive beyond what others seem to notice. You pick up on the energy of spaces. You sense what isn't spoken in a conversation. You intuit when something doesn't align with the truth, even if everything appears perfectly normal on the outside. And this isn't a coincidence. It's a clear sign that your soul came into this life with an awakened consciousness, with a level of sensitivity that isn't developed here on Earth. It's carried with you from before you were even born. It's the subtle memory of someone who has already walked this path before and has learned to read life through different eyes. You didn't arrive with this heightened awareness by accident. You came with it because you knew, even before you incarnated, that this human experience would be filled with illusions, that not everything would be visible. And so you brought with you internal tools to navigate a world where truth often hides beneath layers of appearances. This sensitivity acts as a channel. It connects you to people, to environments, to the unseen. And although it can sometimes feel like a burden, because everything affects you more deeply, reaches you more intensely, it is also your greatest guide. It is how your soul reminds you that you are not here to disconnect from what you feel, but to refine it, to transform it into guidance, into clarity, into a silent yet unshakable power. Your sensitivity is not a weakness, even if others have tried to convince you otherwise. It is a deep intelligence, a higher form of awareness. While many people react from noise and chaos, you perceive from silence. And even though this has often made you feel out of place, what it really means is that you're tuned into a more subtle dimension of existence. There are things you sense before they happen, shifts in someone's energy, endings that are announced without words, opportunities that are felt without any physical evidence. And although you've sometimes doubted yourself because you lacked tangible proof, your perception has never been wrong. It doesn't operate through the mind. It flows from the spirit. And that inner channel is active because your soul knew before you were born that you would need it. It knew that this life would bring challenges that logic alone could not solve. That's why your sensitivity is also a compass, one that points you toward what is real, toward what resonates with your truth. It's also why noisy environments exhaust you, why empty conversations feel uncomfortable, and why you can't remain for long in spaces where everything is shallow. Because your soul recognizes what is heavy, what is false, what is disconnected. And even if you can't always put it into words, you feel it. And that's enough. Your perception isn't broken, it's awake. And in a world that has fallen asleep, that can seem strange. But you are not here to blend in. You are here to remember that this sensitivity is not only part of who you are, it's one of the very reasons you chose this path. Your heightened perception has also led you to carry emotions that weren't even yours. You've felt the pain of others as if it were your own. You've been hurt by an unspoken word, by an avoided gaze, by an unexplained absence. And even when you couldn't name what you were feeling, you knew it was real. Your body registered it, your energy absorbed it, and your soul understood it from a place that needs no logic to validate it. Over time, maybe you tried to shut that sensitivity off, to fit in, to stop feeling so much, to protect yourself. But turning it off felt like abandoning your own essence, like losing the language through which your soul speaks. This sensitivity is also your gift, because it allows you to see the truth behind the masks, to understand what others deny, and to be a healing presence that doesn't seek answers, but connection. Not all souls choose to come into this world with such openness. It requires courage. It means walking through life without armor, with your soul exposed, with your senses heightened. But you chose it. And even though you may have experienced it as a burden at times, it is, in truth, a sacred tool. You are not here to harden yourself. You are here to refine this capacity even further, to turn your sensitivity into wisdom, into discernment, into service. Because to feel is not just to be emotional, it's to receive the truth of experience and allow it to transform you. Your sensitivity has also guided you through moments when logic had no answers. You've made important decisions because something inside you simply knew. Not because it was safe, not because someone confirmed it, but because that internal certainty was stronger than any external doubt. And when you look back, you realize that it was that voice, that quiet intuition that once felt so fragile, that protected you the most, aligned you the most, and held you the most when the rest of the world couldn't. That way of sensing has made you deeply perceptive, not just with yourself, but with others. You can read the energy of a room the moment you walk in. You can detect the inconsistency behind a forced smile. You can be there for someone without needing many words, because your soul doesn't require explanations. It needs presence. And that's why you've never been able to tolerate hollow relationships. You can't force yourself to stay where there is no truth, where emotions are denied, where the soul cannot speak. That rejection is not arrogance. It is energetic coherence. It is your soul choosing to protect its vibrational integrity. This way of perceiving, even if it has brought you pain, is a clear confirmation that your soul not only chose this journey, but came equipped with the exact sensitivity needed to walk it. Because it's not enough to just move through life. You have to know how to feel your way through it. And that you've carried within you long before you ever arrived here. Fourth sign. Life has led you time and again toward the inner path, even when you tried to escape it. Maybe you attempted to fit into what's considered normal, sought answers outside yourself, followed paths others laid out, but something inside you never let it happen. Every time you tried to distract yourself from the inner call, life found a way to bring you back to yourself. That return inward wasn't a coincidence. It was part of the agreement your soul made before being born, to always come back to center, even if you wander, even if you forget, even if it hurts. Some people go their whole lives without asking deep questions, but not you. Inside you, there's an invisible compass that can't stand disconnection, a kind of homesickness for truth that emerges every time you drift away from your essence. And no matter how hard you try, that part of you always pushes you to look within, to feel what you avoid, to face what makes you uncomfortable, to remember what you came here to do. It's not an obsession, it's a pact. And that's why, when you ignore that calling, life doesn't stay quiet. It starts to stir, to shake things up, to show you that what's outside can never give you what's already inside. That pull toward the inner road doesn't always show up gently. Sometimes it comes as a crisis, as losses that shake your foundations, as stages where everything you knew stops making sense. And even though it may feel like everything is falling apart, what's really collapsing is everything that can no longer hold the truth of your soul. That emptiness you feel is not a punishment. It's space. Space for the new to enter, for what's real to emerge, for what you forgot to remember to make its way through. Your soul didn't choose the easiest road, but it did choose the deepest one. And that depth demands a constant reconnection with yourself. That's why you can't stay asleep for long, because every time you do, something inside you dims. And when that light dims, life starts speaking to you in other ways. Discomfort, restlessness, existential fatigue. None of that is random. It's all a way to push you back to the center. That center isn't found outside, not in goals, not in approval, not in what others expect of you. Your center lives in the invisible, in the part of you that hears silence, that recognizes the signs, that knows every experience, no matter how hard, is part of your awakening. Not everyone hears that call, but you, no matter how much you try to ignore it, you always find yourself returning. And that return is not weakness, it's spiritual maturity. It's the soul remembering that no matter how far you've gone, you've never really been lost. You've just been coming home to yourself. And this constant return has given every phase of your life a deeper layer. No matter how ordinary things may look on the surface, inside, there's always something unfolding, a realization taking root, a quiet integration, a transformation that doesn't need to be visible to be real. Some seek their purpose in the outside world, but you found it in the intimate act of feeling again, of looking at yourself honestly, of recognizing your contradictions, of accepting your shadow without judgment, and embracing what you once rejected in yourself. This cycle of introspection isn't something someone taught you. It's in your nature. It's part of the wisdom your soul chose to bring with it, because you knew this life wouldn't be just an outer experience. It would be an inner journey, one where the deeper you go, the more clarity you find to help light the way for others. And maybe that's why you've often felt disconnected from the superficial, from what only seeks to distract, because inside you, there's a much older calling, a mission that doesn't shout but is always felt, a presence that reminds you again and again that your place in this world isn't just any place. It's the place where you can be yourself, without masks, without acting, without denying your truth. That's why you always return to yourself. And every time you do, you grow stronger, not like someone coming back wounded, but like someone who remembers, with more truth, with more presence, with more light. Fifth sign. You feel like your existence has a purpose, even if you can't quite explain it. You don't need external proof or someone to validate it for you. There's something inside you that simply knows, a silent certainty that's always been there, like a seed that no matter how long it takes to bloom, never stops pulsing with life. It doesn't mean you've always had clarity. You've doubted, you've felt lost, even thought maybe you were disconnected from everything. But despite it all, the intuition that your life isn't just a coincidence has remained untouched. Because your soul didn't arrive here by accident. It came with intention. And that intention sometimes appears as unanswered questions, as a longing that nothing material can satisfy, as a restless feeling constantly pushing you to find meaning in every experience. It doesn't matter if the world understands or if no one else sees it. You feel it. You feel there's something you came here to offer, something only you can bring into existence, something that doesn't always have a clear shape, but is so alive within you that ignoring it would feel like betraying yourself. That sense doesn't come from the mind. It comes from the soul. And it's one of the clearest signs that you're not here just to pass through life, but to awaken within it. That purpose isn't always grand in appearance. It doesn't always translate into huge accomplishments, public recognition, or visible external goals. Sometimes it shows up in how you silently hold space for others, in how deeply you dwell in your own darkness, in the honesty with which you choose to live, even when the world pushes you in the opposite direction. You're not here to imitate someone else's version of success. You're here to be a witness of what's real. And that witness doesn't always make noise, but it leaves a trace. The way you walk through your story, the integrity with which you choose your path, the love with which you hold the unseen, all of it is part of the purpose your soul chose long before you arrived here. You may not have all the answers yet, but that doesn't mean you're far from your purpose. It means you're getting closer, because real purpose isn't understood all at once. It's revealed in layers, with every moment of presence, with every truth you choose to honor, with every time you decide to keep feeling instead of shutting down. Your soul knew this path wouldn't be easy. It knew it would hurt sometimes, that you'd have doubts, but it also knew you had the strength. You have the memory, the sensitivity, and the awareness needed to fulfill what you came here to manifest. And the fact that you're here, listening to this, feeling something stir inside you, even if you can't explain it, is proof that this memory is still alive. You don't need to understand everything right now. You just need to keep awakening that part of you that's never forgotten why you're here. That quiet purpose has also been what held you together when everything else felt like it was falling apart, when you didn't know where to go, when you lost motivation, when no answers came. Still, something inside kept urging you forward. A subtle force that doesn't come from ego or willpower, but from a deeper awareness that transcends this life. And so, even when you felt out of place, that feeling wasn't a sign of being wrong. It was a confirmation of your direction. Because souls that come with purpose can't feel at ease in the superficial. They can't stay where there's no depth, and they don't rest until they begin to live in alignment with who they really are. Maybe many times you've asked yourself, why can't I just fit in? Why do things affect me so deeply when others seem unaffected? Why do I crave silence, truth, presence? It's because your soul didn't come here to live asleep. It came to awaken and to help others do the same, not through words, but through your energy, your presence, the way you move through life with awareness. That purpose is a frequency, and when you vibrate in it, everything begins to feel more aligned, more light, more real. Not because the world changes, but because you no longer need to deny yourself to belong. Your soul has already remembered why it chose this path. And now, all that's left is to walk it with more truth. Thank you for making it this far. If all of this resonated with you, it wasn't by chance. It was your soul recognizing what it already knew. Because no matter how many times you forget or how far you drift, the truth of who you are always finds its way back to you. Carl Jung believed that life doesn't begin the day we're born, but the day we choose to listen to that inner voice that's been waiting. And if today you feel that voice has awakened just a little more, it means your process has already begun. You don't need to understand it all. You just need to keep walking with presence, with honesty, and with the certainty that your soul chose this path with wisdom. If this message accompanied you, if you felt something shift within you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and let's keep going deeper together on this journey where soul and awareness meet. See you in the next video. Thank you for being here.